Well, how's everything going?
It is nuts. It is
Really?
insane. Yeah. I'm just like trying to hold the back end together. I'm like, okay, we got this. We can do this. But yeah, it's been really good. So I think we finally like hit the messaging that's just been taken off. So it's been good.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I wanted to hop on. I know you've had some good success, and if you're cool with it, I'd love to kind of take this and kind of use this as like a case study or
Yeah.
like a testimonial video or something like that.
Of course. Yeah.
Um, that would be cool. Awesome, awesome. So, I guess first place to start, kind of walk me through what your big challenges were before you started with us, and kind of like what you were facing and where you were at back then.
Yeah. Let me move this too.
I had ups and downs in
Sorry.
businesses and everything had kind of collapsed for me. I was like, let's stop teaching how to make.
There we go. Russell Brunson somehow always just pops up.
Somewhere.
What's going on? Yeah, so let's see. Before I came to you guys, I'd been working really hard on like the front end of everything and the funnels. We hadn't really done too much into paid ads. And I had just been trying to make outbound work. And I thought that that would potentially get me to a certain point, or that I was supposed to push that to a certain point. And so we were doing cold email, we were doing LinkedIn automation, and we had, some success with that stuff, but it felt like this constant, like 2 steps forward, 10 steps back kind of thing. Software would break, we would, create all these cold email domains and they would go into spam within like the first week. I had a VA that was managing all that stuff and going through multiple VAs to manage it. And it became more of a headache than it was worth. And so ultimately where that led us is very inconsistent, right? Like some months were good, some months were not so good. I never knew where like the next client was coming from. And the biggest goal was just, we have to be able to book a specific number of calls each week. If we're going to move forward and treat this thing seriously, we've got to be able to do this consistently. And so since I started your guys' outbound systems, and it wasn't like drastically different than what we were already doing, but the softwares and the process was different, and it made all the difference. So I got rid of my VA because I could just manage it on my own or have somebody on my operations team manage it, because it's a lot less time intensive. They're not manually sending out emails anymore from Close.io, which is what we were doing. Massive headache. And so with the software and your guys' system, we honestly, just from that, even before we started doing paid ads, we were booking like a pretty consistent amount of calls every week.
Do you know how many calls?
From the outbound alone, I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but going from, 0 to this, it's anywhere from like 5 to 10 a week.
5 to 10 a week. That's good. Just from outbound. That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of return on investment were you seeing? So we're specifically talking about outbound, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And so what type of return were you seeing from just everything that you were putting together with outbound?
So when I went back and looked, when we hit our biggest month at that point was August. And I think it was like 16,000, a little over 16,000 cash collected strictly from LinkedIn and cold email. And what we spent on that was like maybe $350.
Nice. That's a pretty good return.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so what do you feel like was the biggest switch from what you were currently, or what you were doing in the past, and now what you're currently doing?
The system's obviously allowing it to run without me having to do anything with that. Like, I think I was constantly trying to manage the VA and, between the two of us trying to figure out why it wasn't working, and it just was going nowhere. But I think the other big part was the messaging. And I think it was just small tweaks for us. And so the marketing workbook that I went through, the 10-day dump start with you guys, even though it's stuff that like, it's nothing new and we know like we should be doing this, but the way that it was laid out was really useful. And so I feel like between that, using some of that messaging in our outbound, and then using like a very short 4-minute VSL, where before I think it was almost an hour, was really effective for us.
Yeah, I love the short VSLs. That's what I'm currently doing right now. We had ours from like 40 minutes. We cut it down to like 15. Now it's like 5. So
yeah, exactly.
just think about the content people are watching, reels, TikToks, and shorts, like it's all short, choppy content, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure you know, because that's what you guys do. So
Yeah, for sure. And I think I think you guys were the first ones to say like, or that I heard was like, oh yeah, we cut ours down from, it was in the VSL module on your guys' course. And you talked about that. And I was like, I think there was probably some limiting beliefs around that where I was like, no, I don't think I need to do this. It's working. But ultimately I redid it. And now we have a 20-minute one following your guys' format. That's on the thank you page.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
And so you have a shorter one on the VSL, but the longer one's on the thank you page?
Yeah.
That's
So
smart.
the 4-minute, they book the call from there. And then on the thank you page, there's the 20-minute one.
That's smart. Okay, I like that. That's cool. Awesome. And so where were you at, like numbers wise, per month, if you're comfortable sharing this, before and then with us and then now?
Yeah. I have to go back and look exactly. It's funny, it feels so like far.
Ages ago.
Yeah. But less than 10K a month, probably, for sure. And then I think we started hitting like consistent 10K months maybe in the beginning, or like before I had really started diving into the coursework with you guys. And now we're hitting consistent 25K months. We've already cleared 30K this month, and we'll probably end at minimum 40 or 50K this month.
Good job. Nice.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
That's cool.
definitely.
You know, for people who are watching it, people who like book ads, or for people who like we send this to, is there anything else that you would like to maybe add to that?
I think I would say like just from my own experience, right? My mindset has shifted completely. Like I think coming into this, I knew how appointment setters played in and how the outbound played in and how the paid ads played in. But I think that like the way you guys have the system laid out, and granted, it did take me a little while to go through like, what is this? I don't understand why I need this if I have this. And so I think just like being open to that and then continuing to go through the courses and like listening to the system as a whole, as a big picture, like you guys have every piece of that laid in there intentionally. And I think when you finally understand, you know, and it's probably not much, it's just a small tweak, at least it was for us, like you maybe have all these pieces going on your own, but understanding how it like works together. And then you have something that is reliable and consistent moving forward, which I think was like the biggest thing I got from you guys. It like takes the pressure off, you know. I know like, okay, we're booking calls from here and we're good and we can, you know. I think the biggest worry now is like, are we booking too many calls? Are we gonna be able to fulfill? Like, do we need to slow down, you know? So it's a totally different shift for me. So I would say that like anybody that's thinking about it, or anybody that, you know, maybe has done something like this in the past where they've tried an appointment setter, or they've tried paid ads, or they've tried this, they've tried that, like, have you tried it all together in a system that, you know, from end to end is dialed in, is tested, is true? And I think that was all the difference for us. So
thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. That led me to another question. Well, how is this different from things that you've tried in the past? Or a lot of people, like they come to us and they've been burned in the past by like different courses or coaches, or one thing that we're trying to get away from right now is like, it's not like a video course where you go through and you just watch and you just show up to a bunch of coaching calls. And it's like some people come to us and it's not like we're, you know, this marketing agency that's just going to help you with leads. Like we help you with the holistic approach of leads turning into appointments, actually showing up, and like that whole system. So how, like, what would you say to someone? How would you describe it? Or like, how are we different from maybe everything else that's out there that you've tried or you have seen?
yeah, I think the biggest thing is what you said. It's an end-to-end approach, right? And like for me personally, it's funny because it didn't click of how this applies to my own business. Like this was the stuff that I managed at Orange Theory, was the lead journey, right? And these were the things that I was like arguing for at Orange Theory, is if we had this software, we had this process to be able to put it together. And you guys have it all done end to end. And so instead of you as the entrepreneur trying to get buried in what tech do I use here, what software do I use, or what messaging, or what's the drip sequence here, I think just being able to hand the keys over and say, here is a system, you spending a little bit of time learning and understanding how that fits into your business. I think that is the main difference. And there's support along the way. Like the other biggest thing too, is like you guys were constantly checking in between you and Zach. Like, even if I, you know, didn't necessarily make it to the coaching calls, or, you know, if I had a one-off question or whatever, you guys were always responsive, super helpful. And then above and beyond that, you were checking in, you know, it wasn't just like answer and leave you on your own. It was continual check-ins and support. So I think at every turn, you guys have it figured out, you hand over the system, but then any sticking points, you guys are there for support as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then what would you say for people who are like may have like limiting beliefs about the system? I'm not necessarily know what those limiting beliefs are, but just like helping someone. I think 3 things that people want to see. Like 1, what are the results? Like when they're thinking about signing up for us. 1, what are the results? Can it work for me? And 3, like how does it work? Like what's the process? And then what's obviously the 4th one is what's the cost? But what would you say to someone if is like, hey, does it work for me? And like, how does it work?
Yeah, I think like looking at it from a couple different businesses, right? Like I said, like what Orange Theory does with their leads, and then how this is now working in my business. I think my biggest stressor before coming to you guys, and again, like I've been through programs that touched on pieces of this, I think was like always, where's the next client going to come from? What am I going to do? How am I going to balance that and fulfillment? Like if I have to be the one to go out and do outreach or whatever it is, how am I going to balance that with this? And tried paid ads, and I, you know, didn't really see much from that. So I think like if you are in the spot where you've tried paid ads, you've tried cold email, you've tried VA outreach, whatever, I think like putting it all together in the system that you guys have, it works. I mean, it works, and you guys have so many clients across different industries, but the system that you're using, I've seen it in, you know, in brick and mortar business as well with Orange Theory. Like it works. It's the system that works. And there's a reason that so many businesses are using it. And I think it's just figuring out, like putting the time in and pushing through. Like there's going to be sticking points. You're not necessarily going to hit it right out of the park right away, especially with like cold email, at least in our experience, cold email and outreach might take some tweaking. But if you're doing that on your own or trying to do it on your own, it's going to take you way longer. And so if you have like the benefit of you guys who've worked with so many companies, you can see what's been working and what hasn't been working and be able to provide that with somebody. And usually I feel like that, at least in my own experience, has been the missing point, right? Because like I always wanted to go to YouTube and, okay, I'm going to figure this out. There's somebody out there that has the answer, and sure, you can do that, but it's going to cost you a lot. And, you know, by the time you get through that, it's either going to be years, months, or you're going to be burnt out and you're going to be onto something else. And so I think just having the proven roadmap, it works. You know, like I had a little bit of that coming into it. How is this going to be different than anything else that I've tried before? We've been doing this. Is it really that different? And again, small tweaks made all the difference for us.
That was killer. That's everything that we need. That was amazing. Thank you for that,
Awesome.
Giana. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.